It was one of those where I'm like, I was running from meeting to meeting to meeting, and I was like just getting into the meeting. When we were coming back to City Hall, I was like, I have to pit stop to get gas. Sorry.
Hey, man, I'll call you back. I'm at a meeting.
You know, you get going, blowing and going.
I'm glad my car dings at me because sometimes the light will come on and I'll see it and I'll be like, okay, I got like 50 miles.
Yeah.
But then I forget about
Well, so my car does this weird thing where the light will go on at 76 miles or something, and then, you know, 2 minutes will pass and it'll be 15. Yeah, I'm like, what happened? I didn't go 40 miles, which has happened. It's gotta be like a computer glitch, my car, the gas, like, when it comes on, it says, okay, you have 72 miles or whatever it is, 76 miles. And then I'll look 2 minutes later, you have 10 miles.
Yeah. For my current car, it's a 2-year Tundra, but at first it was fine, but now the gas light comes on when I'm either at 0 or 1 mile left. Only when I'm at 1 mile left, it says, hey, you need gas.
Got a pen on your
Right.
Oh, is that your pen?
I was running up to Palo Pinto courthouse yesterday to report this document. I'm almost to the courthouse and it comes on. You have 1 mile left.
It makes it hard to plan for because you're like, I probably should have had the light look on a long time. Now I've just gotten accustomed to it. The second the light goes on, I figure it's fine.
Raise the hood, look at it, it's okay. That's what I'm protected. What's going on, Andy? How are you, sir? Good to see you. Good to see you.
I think y'all have the market on that.
Yeah, okay.
This is not a city-owned facility.
Okay.
It's a fire training.
Yeah.
Middle school crowd.
Roller skating and college. And testing it down two E rather than just bowling and roller skating.
So
Made an A in that.
if you didn't break your own, you got a charge, like a basket race.
I don't remember what you had to do, but I was skating backwards by the end of, like, we could break French with this, and rubber 21, which is great, like, most of the classes. Yes. But in the middle of the day, you know, it's 1 o'clock, and you got to do near college, as opposed to drinking and just going, you know, fucking out. Yeah. We got it.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order at 4:01 for the Palo Pinto County Municipal Water District number 1.
We call our meeting to order, same time for Mineral City Council. And let Councilor Thomas to lead us.
Heavenly Father, we love you today. Thank you for your faithfulness and goodness in each of our lives. Thankful for some cooler temperature. Been waiting on these for a while, and we're grateful. I just thank you for what is before us today. I want to thank you again for the service of our first responders here in the city, who selflessly give of themselves in behalf of all the citizens of this great city. We pray for your protecting hand to be upon them at all times. Just help us as we take care of our business here today, and we give you thanks and praise. In Jesus' name, amen.
Okay, on the water district side, we have a few public comments. We'll start with Richard Jones. I'd ask if you would stand, call him in the middle, state your name and where you're from, please, sir.
My name is Richard Jones. I live at 1582 North Lakeview Drive, Palo Pinto. And my questions are as following, are directed at any city council member, as well as any board member of Water District 1. My first question is, the $277.5 million for Turkey Peak project, will that amount cover 100% of the completed project, including the new reservoir and treatment plant, yes or no? Will that cover the full cost of the project?
Public comment, well, actually, for Open Meetings Act, we can only receive public comment. We might be able to address those questions later. But if
Okay.
you're welcome, we can make note.
All right, my second question is, well, I'll provide you a copy of my questions too.
Okay.
Have you released the debt schedule to the public for the $277.5 million Turkey Peak project? I assume that's a yes or no.
Well, we can't comment during your public comment. Like I said, we
Okay.
can address later. It'll have to be afterwards. We just
All right.
received the comments at this time.
To those that say that this project for $277.5 to 100% completion is unrealistically low, and the realistic number is more likely between 700 million and 900 million, what would be your response? The next question would be, has the city of Mineral Wells or Water District 1 applied for another extension with the Texas Water Board for the Turkey Peak project? Or was that scheduled to begin? That was scheduled to begin on October 13th, 2023. If that hasn't, if you have applied, when was that extension submitted? And has the extension been granted? Next question is, when does the public comment or public hearing timeframe begin if the extension has been granted so that citizens can voice their concerns to the Texas Water Development Board? Next question, would you be informing the public when this comment period will begin? That's a yes or no question. Next question is, what exactly is the 146% increase in water rates for Mineral Wells citizens being used for? My next question, I'll submit these to the board for your answers and comment. Are you basing the ability to pay back these Turkey Peak loans on population growth or on water contract revenues with Water District or city customers? That's a yes or no question. Mineral Wells and Water District 1 has been negotiating new contracts with current customers. Have you secured all contracts that are used to project revenues for the Turkey Peak project? That's a yes or no question. If 3 current wholesale customers do not sign or continue their wholesale contracts, how does this affect the projected debt schedule for the Turkey Peak project? 3 more questions. Has Water District 1 or the City of Mineral Wells installed a meter to track the flow of water taken out from Lake Palo Pinto, yes or no? Next question, the current Lake Palo Pinto levels are at 28.2% via the TexasWaterData.org website. What are your current plans, if any, for water conservation? Finally, the district bond proposal says it allows 58% minimum sale of water for Turkey Peak. In previous city council meetings that have been recorded, it has been stated by council members no water would be sold to the outside non-existing customers from Turkey Peak. Why is this provision in the bond package? Finally, is there a cap on the minimum maximum amount of water that can be sold from Turkey Peak? And I'll submit these.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I would like to remind y'all that there's a 3-minute time limit on this. Okay.
I don't have a stopwatch, you can call, you can tell me to sit down when
I'm done. We have it.
You're next.
I'm next.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
Elizabeth Jones.
Yes,
I
ma'am,
live
that's
with
fine. Come on.
him over in Palo Pinto, but we have the same questions. So I'll just respectfully submit them. They're the
Okay.
same. And I won't repeat them.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you,
And
sir.
just for clarification, we probably won't get to all those questions, because we do have to stick to what's on the agenda.
Sure.
But I'm sure we can put together answers for those.
That'd be great. We would just love, we try to make them very simple, yes, no, informative, and I'll read them.
We appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, the next public comment comes from Brandon Johnson, I believe.
Same thing, just,
Brandon Johnson, Middle Wells, Texas. Just regarding the agenda, I may have missed it. I did a word search for Exhibit A, but I did not see Exhibit A in the document for the agenda. And so, I know you can't comment on that, but, and if I missed it, that's my mistake. I should have reached out a little sooner. That's the case. And I can mail y'all, I don't know who to mail it to, I'll find that out hopefully after this meeting. But this meeting is not supposed to be broadcast just by me. I mean, we're the public, we can broadcast, but this body is actually supposed to have this available to the public online and then archived for 2 years. The verbiage as to what we can speak about and not criticize this body is in violation of the Open Meetings Act under 551.007. It says government body can't prohibit public criticism of a government body. And, you know, if I'm wrong about the Exhibit A, fine. But from what we've seen in the past, this is not being transparent. And a lot of you folks have been on either the city council or this water board for a very long time. And frankly, the public, by recalling Gerald Tomlin, has pretty much said, we don't trust y'all. And being transparent would go a long way to rebuilding that trust. Thank you.
Thank you.
No separate public comment on City of Mineral side? That's it. Item number 1, the City Council of the City of Mineral Wells and the Board of Directors for the Palo Pinto County Municipal Water District Number 1 will discuss and consider to take appropriate action on a joint resolution approving a plan of finance to issue one or more series of public securities in the maximum amount of $277,500,000 to finance projects in the Water Capital Improvement Program.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, Dr. Turk, members of the Palo Pinto County Municipal Water District Number 1 Board. Back in August of 2022, these two bodies convened at Leakfield Services. Part of that included an update on the status of Turkey Peak that principally and primarily the district had been given it a go on its own without much direction. But hearing that, the City Council and the board were brought together and productive discussion was had. Part of that discussion at the time included for staff to look at various funding strategies, how these projects would be managed, and service the future challenges of need in addition to the Turkey Peak Reservoir. To that end, y'all had also employed a full-time general manager, and since that time, Mr. Huffman and the city staff have worked diligently to your direction and your instruction thus far. In January of this year, another joint meeting was held in this room among these two bodies. At that time, there was some discussion about a regional water authority being formed through the Texas legislature and potentially additional funding and or assistance to be brought forward. That legislation didn't occur. We are no closer to any additional timeline of funding assistance through the state at this time, although we will continue to pursue all avenues of available state and federal funding to the end. However, looking at this very uncertain economy, our financial advisors who are here tonight, Marty Shue is here from Hilltop Securities, and Marty Segura, who is our bond counsel, and they can address some of the points that were brought up earlier if they so choose. We began working with them and listening to their advice and the various strategies that you put before Howard and I on how do we get this done. This all preceded an unprecedented decline in our lake that is now worse than it was in 2014. We've been receiving, and you have too on board, periodic updates from HDR, who is now our consulting engineer that the city and the district are both working with and through so that we have a common voice of all these various pieces. And leading that January meeting of this year, in addition to Turkey Peak, the real needs is it addresses the city's TCQ violation. The district doesn't get any violations. The city runs and maintains and operates the plant, so the violations come to us. And so the full needs that the board was fully aware and the council had been brought to be made aware of completing that raw water pipeline, the Brazos pump station improvements so that the wet well and the yield that it'll take in matches what the capacities and the city's contracting out would be. The need for a new water treatment plant, as that water treatment plant is now 10 years beyond the service life that the engineers put forward when it was brought online in 1962 and 1964, as well as the overall Turkey Peak. And all this has been brought together with the assistance of bond counsel, of our water attorney, in the form of a water capital improvements program. This resolution that's before you tonight, and Rudy, I'll step off here in a minute and you can walk through that and any of the questions you want to answer, is basically the culmination of your collective direction as a council and a water board body. Rudy can explain the particulars, but I'm here to tell you, and Howard can disagree, we did what you all asked us to do. Here it is. Is it expensive? Absolutely. Is there a better time to kick the can? It's not something for staff to decide. But what you asked us to do some 14 months ago, we have it. We have a timeline. It's 5 years. I've accepted responsibility for my misunderstanding on the 18 months of not concurrent but consecutive testing, which pushes the water treatment plant outside of that 60-month window, 7 to 11 months. That's on me. But everything will be done if that's what you want. And this joint resolution is a necessary next step in a plan of finance. It's not a financial plan. It is a plan to finance a maximum of $277,500,000 toward these projects. All the city serving needs, the public works complex, the sewer related items have all been removed from this in the overall discussion that we've entertained here before. What's before you now is water, the district, the city's water interest. Our roles and responsibilities have been better defined in that raw water interest and et cetera have been put forth and they're contained in this resolution. Anything you want to add, Rudy, or address those questions?
Sure. Good afternoon. My name is Rudy Sayuda, for those who haven't met personally. I with McCall, Parkhurst & Horton Law Firm in Dallas, and we have the privilege of being bond counsel to the district, the city of Mineral Wells, as well as most political subdivisions in Palo Pinto County. Our law firm is 104 years old. I have not been around those 104 years, but I've worked a lot with a lot of projects, financing a lot of projects in the area. We represent most of the river authorities here in Texas, including Brazos River Authority. We represent the Water Development Board. Our founding partner created the Water Development Board and wrote the Water Code of Texas. We've been working, my predecessors have been working on Turkey Peak with the city and the district for, I don't know, 20 or 30 years, Howard, that we've been working on this project. The first, series of debt obligations to start off the Turkey Peak project were done in 2009. To start the planning phase, the typical life of a reservoir is typically budget 10 years to acquire a 404 permit from the EPA, which has been acquired as of last year, and that's extremely hard to get. That is something typically finance $10 or $20 million for that permit. We passed that milestone, and then we've taken the second step of issuing bonds to acquire the land and do a bunch of the design, and have acquired 94% of the land. Is that right? So it's far along, but this is the typical of the project. Over the course of the life of the project, when I first got involved in 2011, 2010, I think we were looking at $100 million to build Turkey Peak. Right now, that looks to be about $200 million after 10 plus years and maybe 2 recessions. And so of this joint resolution is simply a statement of policy, goals, of procedure, and directs us, the city's outside consultants, being McCall Parkhurst, Hilltop Securities, lawyers, HDR, to proceed with putting together a plan of finance. This does not, you are not borrowing $281 million today. We wanted to leave it open-ended in that, and I apologize, we've changed that, we refined that number, right, $277 million. Yeah. So that number consists of roughly $200 million to finish the Turkey Peak project, and the remaining is 4 large capital projects, primarily a new water treatment plant. And they're spelled out here in the first preamble here. A raw water pump station to get raw water out of the lakes, a 3.2-mile raw water pipeline, and a wastewater reuse system. So that is what collectively makes up the $277 million. 275 million?
275.
Oh, 500, yes, right. And so, we're just trying to put together, get on the same page, make sure the city and the district are on the same page, because we all have to work hand in hand. This isn't going to work unless all the wheels are pointing in the same direction. We're not going to be able to move forward. And so one of the things that we also talked about is, no, currently not every wholesale customer is under an ironclad contract, to pay their fair share of all that. So part of this is going forward, the city council and the board would be announcing a policy to enter into take-or-pay contracts with those wholesale customers to spread the load of the cost of all these improvements, not just among primarily, the city's customers or the district's customers, but all the retail customers in the region that will ultimately benefit from all these projects, from the raw water storage at Turkey Peak and from the treated water that the city of Mineral Wells will provide to these customers. To clarify, we have the district has 3 large wholesale customers, the city being the primary customer, taking the vast majority of the water out of the district. Lake Palo Pinto Area Water Supply Corporation does have a contract. They are a relatively small user compared to everyone else, and then there is a contract with the power plant. Those contracts do expire at some point, but I don't know where else they would possibly get water. So the city of Mineral Wells has 7 wholesale customers, and some of those are at different stages of contracting. These contracts often run for 40 years. Some have run out, some have not. And the city has been very active over the last decade in working with Lloyd Gosselin to structure those contracts in a way that within Lloyd Gosselin being the big water law firm in Austin, and structure all those in a way that will, try to make it fair for everyone in the region to make sure that everyone's paying their part of getting water. Obviously there's a lot of stakeholders here, and a lot of input, and everyone's fighting to get the best deal they can for their customer pool. But eventually all these stakeholders, they all get water, they're all getting water from these soon-to-be 3 reservoirs. 2, Lake Mineral Wells doesn't provide free water, 2 reservoirs. Again, you're giving us permission to go forward and putting together a bond offering to work together in Hilltop and McCall on behalf of the city and the district. And we'll work with your administrators, right, your city manager, general manager, to put together what's most efficient, whether it be revenue bonds issued by the city of Mineral Wells or essentially contract revenue bonds issued by Palo Pinto County, MWD, number 1, with the understanding that any way you look at it, the city of Mineral Wells ultimately pays for all of it. And the city, when the district issues bonds, the city guarantees payment of those bonds. And that's how it's worked as the main customer. And again, this is simply a statement, not simply, it's an important statement. I think it's a historic meeting of policy and a plan of action to go forward and fund these capital improvements, all of which will be necessary to provide water to the region. It doesn't literally commit, or there's no borrowing here on of $200 million. We'll get to that on the subsequent agenda items. There will be $12 million that will be authorized today to pay for the continued preparations for the Turkey Peak Dam construction. But as of right now, that's the only thing that will be on the agenda. But in terms of this particular joint resolution, I'm happy to answer any questions about it.
Rudy, before you move on, would you address section 1, exhibit A that was referenced?
I will take full, exhibit A, the plan of finance. I see. The plan of finance that we had exhibit A is the plan of finance that was presented to City Council at the last council meeting. Not the last council meeting, the last council meeting where Marty and I were at, August the 15th, that basically set forth a plan to fund all of these improvements. So it has been on the agenda. It is not, it was not attached to this document, and that is my fault. I take full responsibility for not submitting it to Dean with that plan of finance attached. That's my fault. The agenda language, again, we're not authorizing any borrowing. This is simply a joint resolution approving the plan of finance to go forward with it. We will have to come back to you, and it's probably not going to be all at once. We're going to borrow as much as is necessary for that particular phase of the project with several ordinances and/or resolutions to borrow. And we'll make it clear at that time that the city council and/or board are authorizing debt to be incurred. But this does not authorize any debt to be incurred. It just gives sort of everybody direction, official direction, on how to proceed with the financing.
So you're saying that this, what you're referencing, you took responsibility for it as Exhibit A, was the previous plan of finance that was presented to council in their packet back in August when you and Marty were there?
Yes.
All right, so we just attach it to it?
Correct.
You're not our city lawyer, council, or the board's representative is here. You are a lawyer, though. You are representative to us on bond council mutually. Is that any way going to impact this document? Do we need to table it?
No. You've given the public fair notice of this, one thing we've changed, there's been some recent litigation in the city of Amarillo talking about dollar amounts. One thing we did put is, before last month, we never put dollar amounts on this stuff. We wanted to put the dollar amount in there to let everybody know how much money we're talking about and to give people notice if they wanted to come up and discuss it. And again, one thing that we would never put in these sort of items in the past was what the purpose was of the borrowing. We just say authorize issuance of bonds, and that was always considered adequate as the baseline to satisfy the Open Meetings Act, which says you have to give the public notice of what's being discussed. The documents attached to an agenda packet can and frequently are in draft form, and they can be amended or tweaked right until the vote.
And the language is in here not to exceed $277,500,000.
$277,500.
Before, I'm not trying to take y'all's time, so you were educating Howard and I about the 42% as it relates to this 58% reference for taxing. Would you share, for the purpose of the question was answered earlier, just high level? It's pretty
I'll try to keep it as simple as
Tax is
possible.
boring, so.
Tax exempt borrowing is usually going to be the cheapest borrowing, right? People that pay taxes, that buy these bonds, they get a better rate of return because they're not having to pay taxes on what they earn. And so on a historical basis, and it's all topsy-turvy right now, but on a historical basis, I've always been told that borrowing at a taxable rate is always about 3% or 300 basis points higher than a tax exempt rate. Now in today's market, that spread isn't anywhere near as big, right? But generally it's a lot more expensive. So most cities, water districts, and will borrow at the cheapest rate we can, right? The problem is, years ago, the Texas legislature created these nonprofit water supply corporations. And after a few years, they have powers like eminent domain and so forth, but IRS said they're not eligible for tax-exempt borrowing. And so anytime we have big projects that we're financing, not just for mineral wells, but everywhere in Texas, we have to do a private use analysis. The IRS says that if it's a private corporation, like a power plant, or a non-profit corporation, or if it's being used by the federal government, then you cannot finance that portion on a tax-exempt basis. So historically, for the last at least 15 years, all borrowings that have been done by the city of Mineral Wells and the district have been split. We do a portion tax exempt and a portion taxable. When we're just talking about the city system in isolation, the city has often done like an 80-20 tax exempt, majority tax exempt and some taxable. But when you add in the other two wholesale customers of the district, being LPPA, Water Supply Corporation, and the power plant, all that use has to be taxable. That's not considered governmental. All right, so in 2009, those bonds were split on a 58% tax exempt, 42% taxable basis. Same thing with 2015, and that's what we proposed to Water Development Board. The actual usage over time has fluctuated up and down, but if the intent is to enter into take-or-pay contracts, we're going to be right there. We're going to be right at like 41.5% usage contracted of the total supply contracted to our various water supply corporations that are part of our system. LPPA, Palo Pinto County Water Supply Corporation, Sturtevant, and then the power plant, and Millsap.
Millsap's not under the new contract.
They're not in the contract. So, in terms of the water reserve, this joint resolution does reserve 100% of the capacity, the yield of Turkey Peak to the city of Mineral Wells. So this, water is fungible, so to speak. We have the two reservoirs that are interconnected, but at least the city will have full usage of that water. Obviously, if the lights go down, right, and you're in watering restriction mode, you go into the drought contingency plan, that takes over. But contractually, the city will be the only party with the right to use the Turkey Peak portion of the two lakes.
Let me interject real quick. So the plan of finance that is referred to in here as Exhibit A was presented at the August 15th meeting, City Council meeting. It was not in the board packet. It was something that was presented by Marty. That number has actually changed since then. What was presented at that point in time was $281 million and change. It has since come down to $277,500,000. So, me advising my board, I think that we can pass this resolution today with a verbal amended Exhibit A, or maybe Marty can do a presentation on what changes she made between what was presented at that city council meeting versus what is different now. But if in joint discussion, y'all decide that it's better to table that until you have a physical Exhibit A in front of you attached to the resolution, then I can see the reasoning behind that decision as well.
If I could respond to Rhett here, whatever the plan of finance is, it's going to be a pro forma, right? It's not final. It's projected. It assumes, today's interest rates, today's market. There's going to be a cushion in it. It's never going to be what's actually going to happen. The way that this process started was, again, looking for direction from both governing bodies on how to proceed. And so we pulled a procedure that we had used where we take a plan of finance, and usually it's verbal, but we ask a city council or a client, a county, we say, this is what we're talking about, and we're talking about doing a public securities offering, right? That means we're going to have to put together an offering document of prospectus. That means we're going to have to engage rating agencies like S&P, Moody's, or Fitch. It means we're going to have to involve underwriters, and it's going to look something like this. Tell us to go this route, right? So that we don't go putting all that work in and then it doesn't get approved. So that's one of the main purposes of this resolution, is to give direction to us and all of the other consultants, all the other professionals that will put a lot of man hours into bringing one or more bond packages to these bodies for approval.
Send Mr. Brosh to go print that and distribute it. Up to your president and our mayor if they want to move this down, table it for now, pick it back up before the end of the meeting, but he's going to print it right now. On the other question, Marty, while we're waiting on Jason, this doesn't have a debt schedule with it.
What was presented on August 15th, so I want to clarify a couple things. We did present an estimated pro forma debt service schedule on August 15th, but it is 100% preliminary. To echo Rudy's comments, that is an estimate. It is also the most conservative form of looking at the debt issued in its entirety at one time. So likely you will be issuing it in phases as you need the money, so you won't be incurring this large obligation at once. So I just want to make sure that's really clear. The purpose of the resolution is just to look at the financing plan as a whole, because all of those pieces kind of fit together. One project without the other makes things complicated. So the thought was get everybody on the same page to approve the plan for the financing. But each debt issuance has to actually be brought back to the board and simultaneously the city council for their approval once it gets issued. So we did, as part of the estimated plan of finance that we presented on August 15th, we did include the total project cost for each of the projects, as well as an estimated debt service schedule. I can let you guys know that was roughly about $18 million per year. That was for a higher figure. So the maximum in the packet before you today is lower at $277 million. So in theory, that annual debt service would go down. That plan will have to be updated pretty regularly. It's a living, breathing document as we know more and we have more information as you let contracts for each of these projects, as you get firmer bids and move forward. That's the point where we actually sell the debt and lock in the interest rates. If that's helpful.
And just to clarify, Mr. Johnson, thank you for the comments about transparency. The purpose to this meeting is to try and be as transparent as we can. Thank you for bringing up the Exhibit A. We will get that cleaned up. That's what we're here for. So give us a few minutes, we'll get that cleaned up for you. So the rest of the agenda items, just for clarity, have nothing to do with this resolution. We wanted to get this resolution out of the way because it sets the tone for the next 5 years. The balance of this agenda is to show the public the process, the steps that have to be taken each and every time either the district or the city goes out and borrows money and commits to bonds to finance individual projects as listed in the plan. So today, the purpose was to give you, because we may not meet together every time, the board may do its thing and then hand paperwork over to the city. They will do their thing at their regular scheduled meetings. We may meet together each time. We don't know what the future holds, but the purpose of today, as we are securing SWIFT funds today, was to show the public the process of what goes on when you secure bonds and how the city and the district have to work together. So I just want to make it clear, the rest of the agenda is not related to agenda item number one. Agenda item number one sets the tone for the future. Then we get down to today's business, which is the balance of the agenda items. Does that make sense?
I believe so.
I apologize if it did.
No, it's clear as mud. I mean, I appreciate you and I thank you for breaking it down. Because and I want to express this, in the Open Meetings Act, it also says that the public can speak on there's supposed to be like a open meeting part and then an opportunity like right now to engage if you would like to extend that.
Well, I asked you a question.
Yeah, so what, well, I just want to make it kind of clear to everybody. The idea behind that is when we have this dialogue, man, it takes the transparency level goes up, right? Because we need the water. You know, we want to trust y'all and we want to think it's going in the right direction. So thank you for chiming in with the Mr. Rudy.
So the information that's going around the room, and just to be clear, Rudy, Marty, this was 281 million. Howard and I went back to it, and as I had explained to both bodies earlier, we've identified and taken out anything that solely benefits the city's retail service customers only. Now, all this water benefits not only the city, but every person in this area now and to come that's going to need water and gets it through this mechanism. But that was the difference of a little bit of difference, and Howard and I did remove that so that it's 277,500. You're a lawyer, you have y'all's counsel, Howard. You know, it's not to exceed regardless. So if from the lawyers in the room, if it makes you uncomfortable and you want both bodies to approve it at 281, knock yourself out, because we're not going to go above that regardless. So, but we did pull it down to very specific numbers, specific to our engineer, specific to the number after you sent it back to us, and he and I made that change. So, Howard,
I am comfortable personally with both bodies approving it. The joint resolution, as we have talked about, it's not, all it's doing is giving us direction. And it's basically, we're all agreeing that we're all on the same page. Now, we have updated in the version that we sent you electronically, We've changed 281 to 277.5. And that's what was posted on the agenda.
Great.
Yeah, so, you know, Exhibit A is illustrative. It's an illustrative plan of things. So it's, and again, it's gonna change. Almost guarantee you it's not gonna be 277.5.
Nothing says that the number in the financial plan in Exhibit A has to match the max 277,500. It could be 500 million.
No.
No, you have a max of 277,500. Regardless of what's in that Exhibit A, you're approving a max of
Cannot
277,500.
be 500 million.
But
we
those
can.
numbers do not have to
That's fine.
be exactly the same. So,
But Howard and I didn't get with Marty, that's on us, and to refine this where they would match. So if the lawyers can have it, but there you go, Mayor, that's our presentation on the side. Dave, sorry.
No problem, okay, so two main things for me. So every bond sale, bond draw that we have is going to come back to us, and we're going to designate those funds to one of these 5 projects. Exactly correct?
That's correct.
Okay, all right. And then the only thing that I would have to comment on this, and, you know, for open discussion for everybody, is all these are important capital improvement projects, but there is some of them that may be more critical. So is there an order of precedence that we should put on these of main focus that we should maybe have? That's just kind of a...
Yes, Councilman, that's an excellent question. The district has already authorized to begin the engineering of the pump station. When we complete that engineering, we will roll right into the engineering on the pipeline.
Yes, sir.
Those are considered to be
Those are mission
the
critical.
critical projects that we need to get on ASAP. At some point, the district and the city will roll into the reuse project. All of this really has to do with the drought and what that's going to do to us there.
Yes, sir.
But yes, we do have a plan of attack. Turkey Peak is on a schedule,
Yes.
has been on a schedule for a long time. Set Turkey Peak aside, now you have the other 4 smaller projects, and so water treatment plant will get started with some preliminary work and R&D and beta testing type stuff before we get to the final design. That process is a little longer, leaving the other projects as low-hanging fruit.
Yes, sir. Understood. I just wanted to make sure that if something catastrophic, say, happened tomorrow and all of us was gone, and somebody else had to pick it up, they'd be able to look at it and immediately know the order of
Yes.
precedence of the most critical projects that need to be taken place. Thank you.
And Dean, I'd like to add, if somebody wants to back me up on my math here, if you will take the $281,027,013, and if you back out the $517,666 for the lift station upgrades, and you back out the $3,071,483 for the new public works complex, that leaves you with a total of $277,437,864. We rounded that up for the purpose of this resolution. So that does confirm the number that's in the resolution. Those are the 2 items that got pulled off Marty's list to come up with the 277.5.
And this was,
Is that
as
understood?
Marty explained, this was illustrated, this was an example. The number on there for the Public Works Complex was one of a 3-year implementation payout in a draw. There's going to be 3 draws on the public work or phases for the Public Works in 3 separate parcels, working with our engineers, working with the architects, trying to spread it out and watch the water rates and adjust those down accordingly. But this was the FY 2024 and 2025 with the 200 million. That was all rolled in there. So this is the whole plan. But those 2 things were on there, and those are city, I say benefit, those are city-related items only. They do not apply to the context of the whole. Wholesale customers should not pay for the Public Works Complex. Wholesale customers are not affected by our wastewater, our sewer lift. That is outside of the scope and has not been included, although in some of the initial It was, because I didn't know any better, so kill me.
And Marty, if I could ask you on behalf of the district, can you revamp this document, taking out those two projects and, for the sake of your spreadsheet, put 63,000 in there as a contingency to bring us up to the 277.5. Recalculate this, get it to us, and we'll try and get it up on the website. Board, is that okay?
Happy to revise that.
But for the water district board, as far as today goes, I advise you that you can take this document as your exhibit A to the joint resolution and approve the joint resolution with that as your exhibit A, even though she's going to update your numbers for you in the next week or two and stuff.
Yes.
This joint resolution can be passed with that as exhibit A.
That meets the Open Meetings Act requirements of posting this exhibit A before the meeting?
Well, yeah, I mean, you can't only approve what is posted in the packet. I mean, you have the ability through, that's the whole point of discussion and questioning, and what y'all do here is to change documents and give y'all the ability to amend things and then pass it as agreed to by the bodies.
Okay, but
So-
the resolution does reference Exhibit A. Exhibit A is not postable with the rest of the agenda or with the resolution. I realize that Exhibit A that we looked at back in August is a higher number than what the resolution calls for now. And that's all okay in my mind, but as far as Open Meeting Act regulations, is it good?
I think with, transparency and best practices and then the Open Meetings Act requirements. And I think we clearly, I'm comfortable, we fully satisfied the Open Meetings Act requirements. But it's up to y'all if you're comfortable that it was, there was enough detail posted. Just as a simple example in the world that I live in, we don't have everything that gets posted in draft form, because anytime we're selling bonds, we're usually selling bonds the morning of the meeting. So, we have ordinances that have no numbers, no interest rates, no principal amounts, and and that includes, the city ordinances, and those, they satisfy the Open Meetings Act because, when we're putting the substantive terms, we're putting a draft in there. But more than anything, the Open Meetings Act requires that you give the public fair notice of what's to be discussed at the meeting.
It does not require you to give them everything. If you're going into executive session to approve a real estate contract, and you decide within executive session that you're good with these terms, then you come out and approve the contract. Well, you didn't put that contract in the packet. It got distributed to the public beforehand.
So I guess at any
Right,
time, anybody in the public that looked at this resolution, they could go and request Exhibit A in time to look at it before the meeting on their own.
Well, the Open Meetings Act just requires you to give people an idea of what will be discussed at that meeting, not provide them with every single page of every document that is in the board packet. You can't say discuss general business and that be your whole agenda. That does not give them fair notice of what will be discussed. But Rudy and I are both comfortable that the agenda that was posted and the item number 1 with regard to the joint resolution fairly described what was going to be discussed and taken action on here today. So, but again, if y'all don't feel comfortable with it, I can understand that decision and if you decide to table it. But I'm advising my board that I'm comfortable with the joint resolution and this is Exhibit A and that the Texas Open Meetings Act has been met.
Yeah, and for us, this is already a public document from the other meeting. Now, what we might want to do, is that we want to keep it very, very tidy, is in the motion, mention that we let it, so that they match, that 277.5 number. We can always, vote on this with the amended Exhibit A, to be provided, so that it's all tight.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from the council? What's the pleasure of the council?
resolution with the amended exhibit A.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes 6-0.
From the Water District. Most pleasure of this.
I move that we accept the joint resolution approving the plan of finance to issue one or more series of public securities in the maximum amount of $277,500,000 to finance projects in the water capital improvements program with the amended schedule that we discussed that ties back to the $277 million.
So do I have a second? Is there any further discussion on the board? I'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We're going to the second item on our agenda. We have before us a resolution to the sale of 2023 A revenue bonds in the principal amount of $6,960,000 as completion bonds for the Turkey Peak project. If there's any questions for Marty, Ruby can answer.
I'll just comment that this is exactly what we were talking about, where these bonds are actually being sold. With your approval tonight, you are locking in the final interest rate, which you are accepting from the Water Board. The Texas Water Development Board did sell its own bond, so they released the interest rates back to you, which have been implemented into the debt service schedule. I can let you know that the final true interest cost for the tax-exempt piece of bonds is 4.09%. That's the 2023A. The 2023B is the taxable portion, and the final true interest cost of those is 5.51%. So to allude to Rudy's statement earlier, the differential between the tax exempt and the taxable rates right now is 1.5%. And they did have to be separated according for the use for tax purposes. We'd love to issue it all tax exempt if we could, but tax law requires that a piece of it has to be issued as taxable, which has a higher rate. These rates will be fixed over the life of the debt, and they're being amortized for 30 years. So by approving the resolutions before you, that's more or less the final step of the bond issuance process. They then go to the Attorney General for approval, and we will close on the bonds, and the district will actually receive the money on November 20th.
Just to reiterate the history here, so the first real work for Turkey Peak officially started in 2008 with the first Texas Water Development Board SWIFT funding coming in 2009. There was a lot of years of work ahead of that. That is when Turkey Peak became the answer to the question. There was a lot of questions, a lot of other alternative measures evaluated prior to that. And so, as Rudy mentioned, the 404 permitting process is a guaranteed 10-year minimum time frame. We did get our permits starting in 2015, finished up in 2018. So the first 2009 funds funded that initial geotechnical, a lot of the interagency work between the district and government agencies to get 404 rolling, that type of work. The 2015 bonds were secured to finalize the engineering and to begin land purchases. And now this final draft on Monday, as Rudy alliterated, this is a very typical three-step process in building reservoirs. This is to complete all non-construction related items, which is what the people that are going to buy the bonds to build Turkey Peak, they want to know that we have checked all the boxes, we have all the land, all the government stuff is done, everybody's on board. So this final draw of money is to finish all non-construction related activities to get Turkey Peak ready for bid and construction. Those activities are lined up over the next 12 months to take place and be completed. So as we were applying for this money, the engineers and the council and the district did put together a plan of action to keep this project on schedule. So that's just to let everybody know what these funds are for and why we have to have them ahead of construction. We cannot ask for construction funds until all pre-construction activities are complete. Rudy, anything to add to that, sir?
Just adding in, we talked about the Water Development Board, there being a commitment. The Water Development Board, in some projects they do give what is called multi-year commitments. They've stopped doing that because they're too anxious about the future, I'll say. But there's, at this point, the Water Development Board is only committed to fund this $12 million. So any future phases of Turkey Peak or any other project, you have to go through an application process, and the time frame for that process from applying to getting money in hand is about 18 months. It's a long process, and that's right there on page 1. So, and just to confirm, we're on the 2023 A bond resolution.
Yes, sir. Yes.
And so there'll be 2 resolutions. This is for the portion that is 58% of the $12,006,900,000. As you can see, these are the 4 bonds that are currently outstanding. The 2009A tax exempt, 2009B taxable, 2015A tax exempt, 2015B taxable. So this is the 3rd tranche of bonds. It'll be a total of 6 series, and these are all secured. Basically, what's the source of payment? The source of payment is the contract between the City of Mineral Wells and the district. And that contract goes back to 1981. So the Water Development Board has not committed to fund any, at this point, has not committed to fund any future phases of Turkey Peak. And, part of this whole process is evaluating what's most efficient because, again, it is slow. Things, I mentioned, with the Water Development Board, you've got to comply with many other regulations frequently that generally increase the cost. All right, it increases how much you have to pay contractors, and it increases the cost of raw materials. With the Water Development Board, they have to approve every single last dollar you spend before you spend it. Sometimes that approval can take a very long time. And that's where we're at right now is we'll come back to you with how it's going to be financed, but right now the plan is to not use the Water Development Board for the construction of Turkey Peak. Just because it's going to be a lot faster. I think that's all. I just wanted to throw that out there. That was one of the questions from the public was a Water Development Board commitment. Again, all they've committed to do at this point is fund this $12 million. They went out and they borrowed the $12 million that they're loaning to y'all. They closed on that loan last week, and then we have the city, the district is obligated to close within 90 days thereafter. So we'll close November 20th.
And just to clarify, Rudy, they have not committed to anything else because we haven't asked for anything
Correct.
else.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If we wanted to ask, the process would be we put our ask in by March 1st of 24, and then they consider it in the fall of 24, and they fund it sometime in mid to late 2025. That would be the process. And this chunk, again, just to clarify and be clear, is to fund the last portion of it's getting the last piece of land, moving utility lines that right now would be underwater, moving them out so that they'll be over the lake. And the road, we can't build a dam without having a road that's capable of having heavy equipment movers come back and forth. And so we need to build that road. And this is the last preparation phase. The next phase would be build a dam. And just to reiterate the 404 process, 404, I'm working on 3 other lakes right now that I'm working on for 6-10 years. and none of those have even started toward the 404. And all those projects have been on the books for like 30 years. So this project, in terms of all the lakes in Texas, this project, I can't think of a single one that's further ahead. It's closer to reality.
Okay, so you mentioned permits, and I want to answer a question real quick. Yes, we did have to reapply with TCEQ, but let me preface that. TCEQ's permits are only good for 2 years. I don't care what you're doing with them. So every 2 years, you have to renew your permits with them. Yes, that permit renewal was due this year. Yes, that permit renewal has been done and accepted. It's a procedural. They know what we're doing. U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, same thing. They're on a 5-year schedule. That was also due this year. That has also been renewed. So all permits are in place and up and working. Did that answer that question for you?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I'd also like to make the public aware that by doing this resolution and doing these things today on $277 million, it's saving us 15 to 18 months of possible other financing, which is holding up the project another 15 to 18 months. And with the cost of inflation, with the cost of
Interest rate risk.
interest rate risks, this is, so I just want to bring that point out again. So, any other questions from the board for Marty or Rudy? So if not, I'll entertain a motion.
Do you want on agenda item 2 first?
Correct.
I move that we accept the resolution as included in our packet authorizing the issuance and sale of Palo Pinto County Municipal Water District Number 1, Series 2023A revenue bonds in the principal amount of $6,960,000 as completion bonds for the Turkey Peak Reservoir project.
Is there any other discussion about the bonds? If not, I'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now, on agenda item number 3, which is just going along, there's a resolution now is authorizing the issuance and sale of the Municipal Water District Series 2023B revenue bonds in principal amount of $5,040,000 as completion bonds for the project. Any questions or concerns with that? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we accept the resolution as included in our packet authorizing the issuance and sale of Palo Pinto County Municipal Water District Number 1, Series 2023B revenue bonds in the principal amount of $5,040,000 as completion bonds for the Turkey Peak Reservoir project.
Second. You don't have any questions, concerns, or discussions on that? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept, or a second. Rich, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Okay, in your packet on agenda 4, there is a supplemental and modification contract number 7 to the water purchase contract.
Yeah, Mr. President,
And
this is typical, so every time the district borrows money, we have to come back. This is amendment number 7, as you could tell. So, and this just, what this does is it builds a history of what we've been doing since 1981. That's how we start with the original 81 contract, and every time we borrow money, we take on debt, we renew that contract with the city with these addendums. So this has been done in the past 6 times. As you can see, we're on number 7, and this is standard housekeeping here.
any questions, concerns, discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
I move we authorize our president and secretary of our board to execute the supplemental and modification contract number 7 to the water purchase contract as included in our package.
Is there any further discussion or questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a vote. All in favor? Any opposed?
Item number 5, the city council of the city of Mineral Wells will discuss, consider, and take appropriate action on an ordinance authorizing the issuance and sale of Palo Pinto County Municipal Water District Number 1, Series 2023A and Series 2023B revenue bonds. The principal amount of $12 million collectively is completion bonds for the Turkey Peak Reservoir Project. Further authorizing the supplemental and modification contract number 7 to the 1981 water purchase contract with the Palo Pinto County Municipal Water District Number 1, and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute the associated documents.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the council, for the previous actions and approvals by the Palo Pinto County Municipal Water District Number 1 Board of Directors and their resolution, these items are a necessary next legal step. And as Howard stated earlier, we're trying to lay out the flow process so that anybody in the future that wants to track these different mechanisms, resolution here, ordinance there, it's all out. But this is how these type of, especially these joint ventures, indebtedness are issued via resolution in one governing body, via the authorization on the part that is the money collecting part, would typically be via ordinance. And that was the sole intent and purpose. Based on the board's direction and action, attaches an ordinance for your consideration will authorize the issuance and sale of both Palo Pinto County Municipal Water District Number 1 Series 23A and Series 23B revenue bonds in principal amount of $12 million collectively. And those amounts have been specified in the resolutions that you heard before and you have a copy of as completion bonds for the Turkey Peak Reservoir project. The attached ordinance further authorizes amending via the supplemental and modification contract number 7 of the 1981 water purchase contract between the city and the Palo Pinto County Municipal Water District Number 1. And that ordinance also authorizes the mayor and city clerk to execute all the associated documents that are necessary in that regard. Any questions?
I'll move that we approve the ordinance authorizing the issuance of $6,960,000 Palo Pinto County Municipal Water District Number revenue bonds, Series 2023A, and authorizing the issuance of $5,040,000 Palo Pinto Municipal Water District Number 1 revenue bonds, taxable Series 2023B, as completion bonds for the Turkey Peak Reservoir project.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes 6-0. We also need to have a second motion authorizing the execution of the supplemental and modification agreement number 7 to the water purchase contract and enacting other matters related to this.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes 6-0.
No, I don't have any questions. Does the board have any questions? Then
All right.
we'll, we'll close this, the district will close its meeting at 5:11.
City Council, same. Your turn.
Yeah, no, Marty, do you have a business card? Okay, thank
I'm just going off the.
It is very good. I know, I understand. My dad
I guess I'm gonna head out.
Yeah, I'm sure we're gonna wait about an hour.
Oh, that's fair. I'm gonna pull it for punishment, so. I'm gonna pull it. Well, yeah, you got it. Okay, you got it. That's great. I got
It's like a car. I went across the and I don't know how true this is. The one is bringing a police direct from the vans where y'all are. Pumps pick it up. That's one of
There is, but you're giving them some.
I'm saying somebody, because I've heard it, and that's where I'm we have a contract. This goes back no, there's no beer. 2 days. That's not the case. But that's not
fine, that's not right. Everybody's mind. I'm a big fan. Because right now, between Maryland and Georgia, 6 years. We've got 7 years. Almost 2 years.
How do we get there? So that, I understand it makes it,
And all 6 projects out here. It's about what else the wholesalers do. It's less right now. Well, there's a valve there. It's a butterfly valve. It's not me. You know, they didn't have it back in the day, but there is, I'm in oil and gas too. There's an engineered calculation. They know what's clearly out there. Within a 20%. Yes.
Gotta make sure my stands right side up.
Being and I talk about it today, it's been that's why I can't. It's an order. It's an order.
I also understand,
But
it's on order to pass out.
but to me,
I don't know. And I don't, you know, I don't know the reason. I'm just curious
gross gonna go
because.
stupid.
No,
Gross gonna go stupid.
That's where I'd rather go. Because I was like,
So y'all do what you can. About 12,000
What you got to do.
between us and wholesalers, and I'm speaking.
Am I not supposed to take?
Around 5,000 on paper. That's a 30% growth.
Am I not supposed to take anything?
It's not that I'm just county is gonna grow. It's silly. I don't want to, those phones out in Palo Pinto, don't see it grow either. But the investment side of it, I mean, y'all's son and Karen, I mean, a couple of shoes in on the southwest part of town, like, you know, stop.
That's all we're asking, the outside. I think we got to bring that together.
So right now, we want
You know, it'd be nice.
the debt service coverage. 5 years. Parker's gone. That's the way they got it calculated.
They got a calculator for that.
Yes, yeah, that was one of the questions. Now, the problem is, and that's where I thought in all my, all the ones that we
I'm gonna, you're in red. Get ready one of these days, because I know you got y'all color coordinated.
Well, the biggest issue right now.
Okay, I've got
Biggest
it.
issue right now is
I've got it.
Millsap's paying for 9 million worth.
Yep.
Or 9 million.
Just got a piece of it. Just.
But we can't get the water out. We're under all this stuff because paper.
Like nobody would.
They ain't gonna sit there.
Oh, I just barely.
Oh, I never heard this
No.
before.
You just like said it like, and it just really, it just must have hit the.
They're contracting them out, and every 5 years.
And we could have had it
5
today,
years.
because I looked into it and I never could find it. But I think that was covered.
Yes, we
Because that should be able to take that gun and beat it and stop other people like, we don't understand. That was, I was
I mean, I'm trying to protect it.
I wish we had better records of the wind and all. We would have good.
146% increase.
Because I think they're a good company. Anyway, that may be easier for you to put together with it.
We want to go and stuff, and that's just what we're cost benefit analysis.
Anyway, we'll get rid of it.
ER stuff, which is different, like your dialysis.
It's been a while.
It's also,
Well, I have to listen.
hopefully,
I do have a.
Were you not there?
He's on our board. We've got the rights for the next 6 years for 2,000 acres. Which is a little under 2 million. That's a 1.8. Gets us by. But you record, but it's this is where I'm at. If you did all the time, that's what you're saying. Right now,
Right. Basically, like,
we don't have enough clean fresh water. When I'm saying fresh water, instead of black water, when you have to RO it, you're losing certain amount off the top. So it's, I am not a fan of RO. That's why, and I was gonna catch that for the last meeting. Well, RO?
So you're catching, that's what happened at that, but it's that's what happened, they
I'm
come
just not a fan
around,
because it's.
that happened, they didn't realize that's what it is, right? They didn't
To have to give 30% back to the river. I want to keep it drop that there for so that's why to me.
So it seems like it's out there, you got all three
Get
mountains.
some more.
And I'll tell you, I mean, I haven't actually seen where it's going. I know
It's got to pass TCEQ drainage.
Yeah.
It's
not all over the country.
If you go swimming Oaks Cross, you can swim in the river, it's Polly Creek, dumps it right in the river there. But what it does is it goes in the preset, and sits in the preset pond is what it's going to do, so. It's big right by the road. There, we're using in non-drought to like 6 million a day with that. And they just cut the load on the lake and that's kind of, and then,
And look, maybe that's why y'all, my thought was, let's conserve what we got. And it's like, I'm just, we're losing about 55%.
Is he developing?
We are water town.
we that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's maybe evaporation.
But I don't know.
We have rights, 2,000 acres.
Some of us are wastewater.
So the deal for the golf course, we couldn't use it.
And again, I realize.
So if you cut
Let that water rail, okay, I'll get up there, regulation.
really usage per year,
You know, whatever.
6,000. So once again.
So I was looking at all that, and I'm like, well,
So you got.
there is a train stop that goes east.
We can take.
But I is.
Water treatment. Say, we're building 12 million water treatment. But 48, 49, we just 2 million water treatment. That's the difference. There's 20, there's ways to do it. And then now we just gonna talk about 3 or 4 days. And that's giving us something. That's a something else.
I'm glad somebody on the council.
No, I don't know if they're really good. I just figured it all out. But no, you came up and you spoke.
Yeah.
Rudy, do you think
Really?
The other thing, I mean,
Well, it's been a while.
You can call me, I won't get too far. I'll be 5 minutes away.
Oh, I enjoy it. I enjoy the heck out of it. I don't enjoy it. But no, I wanted that song.
Where was that today? Yeah, thanks a lot, I appreciate your time.
Yeah, no worries, man. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, y'all going to the next radio too? or- Oh, man.
Rodeo.
Well, y'all have a good one.
So,
if you guys, we got to start.
no, you're right.
Thank y'all for coming.
It's not very pretty. And so, I mean, you know, you got an automatic filter.
Well, and a lot of people, because that's been brought up, well, why are we floating down the river if it's clean water on top? So I kind of get that, you know, I mean, but those are
Four of these.
where, and I don't.
Yes, okay.
I really don't have time for
They're signing.
But I'm like, oh my God, we're passing basically $500,000 or billion, I mean, with the interest, all to a small community. And it's like, whoa, I'm in this community. I mean, like you say, if we weren't
Marty
here.
leaving?
So that's kind of my thing, but
How could she leave?
I get it, yeah, to some extent, but I have to wrap my mind around it. And be able to share it. You know, because at the end of the day, we
Uh,
gotta
these
have
are the
water.
actual laws. It's the same thing they do.
And you're gonna have to
I was
either
gonna say, Kevin knows that.
recycle it like they
What's
did up
that?
there in Wichita Falls, or we're gonna have to build it. You know, there's just, and the reality is,
Had to do with the woman
too, this place is gonna boom. I mean, it's, I don't know if you've been there.
One of those,
I finished that food rental with,
every night you do.
and
See you later, Rich.
We'll see y'all.
Appreciate it.
one of my concerns, and I know this is another, but I don't think
You have to spend the money.
city leadership is ready for what's, could potentially happen here.
Just
People are
expand.
gonna come out here and say,
Yes,
there's
sir.
no way you're gonna move into town,
You understand?
but the county's still gonna, I mean, the county's already up on the.
We've been certified or not.
You know, and it's inevitable. I mean, I like the, I mean, and I'm torn on it honestly, because I like being able to get across town in less than 10 minutes. I mean, so I mean, there's, I kind of see all sides, but when you're trying to swallow 500 billion,
Yeah, so
then
there's
it's like,
only 31 bonds we issued, but we just said they can be signed facsimile, so we made copies. We usually make a decision to sign 62 bonds. All right. That's the A's.
As if.
Yeah, these signed. And then the A on the back of the is a federal tax certificate, and the security note. That's all for you. Two sets of signatures, they just that document. All right, so then we move on to these. Same deal, just saying y'all met in open session, compliance with open meeting act. And we had nobody after.
Look,
Correct. All five
Everybody
acres.
or anything.
I can't believe. Another thing is, in our country, we may be going through a time when people just think, well, we're treating law. I didn't realize I started putting some coats on
It's worse than buying a house, really.
Well, it is now, and now when you just click, you know, used to be you actually had to sit there and sign,
And
and
then I started realizing.
now you just click.
You know,
Yeah, no, I
they were putting on those plants, maybe we don't need all this.
well, one other thing about doing, I saw a guy, because I got a big shop down there, you know, and I started telling him, he had these big,
They're never seen.
big poly tanks.
I just think one of them would be
I
better.
mean, they're kind of ugly, so I'm thinking, well, I don't know, my wife's having to put up that right down the back window.
Sometimes,
It's like,
honestly,
you know, you can collect a lot
10
of
years
water.
from now, you decide that you want to break it down.
You know, you
Just
can
put
put
it
it
in
all
multiple
the time.
bonds and some bank.
But
calls
yeah,
it
we're gonna have to pay more attention. I mean, yeah,
Pull out the 6 acres and make them into bonds. Sometimes the bond will.
I'm gonna put a gutter system in and.
Yes.
If that makes sense. Some of these are ones
Yeah.
like 40,000, and might decide to split up into two chunks.
well, it's definitely changed
More
the way we
information.
think
you want.
about it.
Yeah.
Thank
Well, hey, it's good
And then
talking.
the actual bond is.
And Crawford, Mr. Crawford. Good talking to you. Done, that's all right.
Same document.
All right.